So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here on a Saturday morning. You're inspirational just showing up to learn more from our amazing ACTFL Teacher of the Year, William Lee. William, we are so fortunate that you were willing to reschedule this and spend time, which is really your downtime in between all the other regionals and all the other things that the TOY gets to do. So thank you, thank you. Many of us on the screen were there in Boston when you were recognized as our Teacher of the Year, and you're an inspiration to us all. Congratulations, enjoy the ride. Thank you for being here. And I am a Latin nerd at heart. I remember in high school, back in the 80s, a local university professor was doing after school Latin classes for fun in high school, and that's what I signed up for. Exactly, Salve. A language nerd at heart. So thank you all for being here. Congratulations. William, we will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here this morning. I know it's super early where you are. And so I really appreciate you spending your morning with me. And so just really quickly, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of introduce yourselves, since it's a small group on Zoom. And so let's just get to know each other. So if you can tell me your name and what you teach and where you're from, that'll be great. And so we'll start with Bridget. I'll just go.
That's good. And then we can popcorn if you'd like, William. I could do that.
Sure, that would be great.
Thank you, William. I'm Bridget Yaden. I'm a professor of Hispanic and Latino Studies at Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma, Washington. And my pronouns are she, her. They disappeared when I changed my name. I will popcorn over to Carla in Alaska.
Ohio gozaimasu. I'm Carla Swick. I'm in Palmer, Alaska, which is about 1 hour north of Anchorage. And I teach Japanese in a class called Educators Rising. And it is, in Alaska, it is spring break. So just heads up. A lot of people are in other countries right now.
All right, Carla, popcorn, you're in charge.
I'm going to go with Teresa.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Mountains. This is my 20th year teaching for Billings Public Schools. I've taught middle school and high school. And I remember you, William, you were at the JNCL. So there wasn't that many people that recorded videos at the end, but I remember seeing your video. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Catherine from Wyoming.
I'm Catherine Banky. I'm the PNCFL president. I teach middle school Spanish in Casper, Wyoming. And I will popcorn over to Ben.
I was just finishing breakfast. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Fisher Rodriguez. I'm a German and Spanish teacher at Bothell High School in Bothell, Washington. And I did my teaching credential at the University of Texas at Austin. So
hook 'em horns.
Yeah, hook 'em. I will popcorn over to Chuck.
All right, so I'm Charles. I'm up here in Alaska with Carla, dragging myself around in our final days of freedom from spring break. I teach German at high school and also the introductory classes at the university. And then I will pass it on to Tanya.
Hi, I'm Tanya Langen. I teach German 1 through IB at South Salem High School and also French 1. And Carla, I was wondering if we met at an IB workshop in Indianapolis.
Yes, we are also IB.
Okay, so I think we were at the same workshop. Do you remember hanging out a little bit?
Yes.
Yay.
Good to
That's
see you.
cool. Good to see you. And I will pass it on to, I think we've had everybody, right?
No, we've got a few. So how about Reiko?
Oh, Melody. I'll pass it on to Melody.
Thank you, Tanya.
I just got on, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be saying.
Just name and what you teach and where you're from, Melody.
Melody Batres, and I teach in Bellevue School District in Washington. And I teach Spanish immersion, USA social studies, and also Spanish 1A and 1B.
Very cool.
How about Catherine Uslan?
Hi, good morning I'm in near Fresno, California. I'm at CLTA conference. I'm actually a member down here. So it's great to see you. I'm a teacher of French in Mount Vernon, Washington, and I'm the past president of the PNCFL and a current board member. So welcome and thank you for doing this on a Saturday.
Great.
Well, thank you for having me.
Sorry to interrupt. Reiko?
Hi, I'm Reiko Hashimoto. I'm teaching Japanese at the University of Oregon.
Well, thank you, everybody. And again, it's such an honor to
We
be
get one
here.
more?
We have
William?
one more, sorry.
But I don't know your first name because of the way your screen's showing up. JL Husland?
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
so sorry.
My name is Jennifer Huseland, and I'm teaching in Spokane for the homeschool program at Northwest Christian High School. And I teach junior high and high school and also some elementary Spanish.
Very cool. So again, welcome. And thank you so much for spending your morning with me. It's so good to see everybody. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can y'all see that okay? All right, and so good morning. My name is William Lee, and I am a Latin teacher in San Antonio, Texas, and I teach Latin 1 through AP. So we start Latin 1 in 9th grade, and we go all the way through AP in Latin in 12th grade if they choose to stay with me. And it's been pretty good. Usually I have about, 15 kids in the AP program, and so I've been very fortunate that way. And so here is a way for you to see your presentation. And I know it's sometimes difficult via Zoom when we are talking and watching and, the screen and all, so you can kind of follow along with your devices if you like. And it's a copy of this presentation. So some of the slides are a little bit different, but overall it's pretty much the same thing. Or you can use the link as well. And just kind of a show of hands here as far as things are concerned. How many of you guys are familiar with Goose Chase or have heard of Goose Chase or digital scavenger hunt? No, not at all? Okay, so we'll have 1, 2. Okay, so we'll have a few people. I'm sorry?
I've heard of it, but haven't used it.
Okay, so it'll be a good thing then. We can kind of try to do that. And so looks like we have someone joining in right now. So I kind of pause for a moment to let her join. But it's a great tool to help the students kind of break up the routine. And so if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and you will need to have a mobile device. It's not something that you can just download on a Chromebook. And so it has to be a mobile device. And so if you can go into your app store and look for this icon and type in Goose Chase, and then you can download it. And we'll do an activity with it. And you can kind of see how I use digital scavenger hunt to try to build proficiency in the classroom. So looks like Lynn may be having a little trouble signing in. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this code for her and then put it in the chat. So let me go back. Again, as we're trying to relearn everything, right? On Zoom and trying to figure out how to do these things. So let me type that in. And so if y'all need to at any time refer to the PowerPoint, then you can go ahead and type in that link. I think I typed it in correctly. And so these are the goals for today's session, and I'm not going to read the goals to you. I know how boring it is to just read a PowerPoint. Y'all can all read, right? And so we all have been to those PD sessions where OMG, people are just reading off the slides. And so there it is. Okay, you can kind of look at what it is that we're talking about. And then, some norms for today's session. And again, the first thing is you need to take care of yourself always, because, as we are still dealing with the pandemic, kids are not okay, right? They as we're dealing with kids and their social and emotional trauma from the pandemic, they have been very isolated. And so how many of you guys have kids who just cannot engage? We all do, right? And we also have days where, like, we just cannot deal with things, right? Like, you go to school, you're like, OMG, had a late night, we have some family issues. You cannot be 100% all the time. And so that's my advice to you, even for today's presentation, is please take care of yourselves first. All right, if you need to use a restroom, please feel free to do so. It does not hurt my feelings. If you need to, turn off the screen, does not hurt my feelings at all. Please take care of yourselves first. You are not going to be able to be 100% on with the kids all the time. And it is okay not to be perfect all the time. You need to be 100% prepared, yes, but you don't have to be on all the time. You need to take care of yourselves first and foremost. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to take care of the kids, right? Because what a privilege it is that we get to work with kids and affect positive changes on a daily basis. If you are not taking care of yourself, you are not going to love them. And that's what we're there for. We're not there to teach them Spanish or German or Japanese or Latin, right? Or French or any other world languages. We're there to love them first and foremost. They are our future. If we don't show them love, they're not going to be able to then pay that forward. And truly, we need to help them develop that empathy. And there's no other class in all their schooling career where they're going to be exposed to so many ways to help them develop their empathy and changing their perspectives, right? And so in our world, that's what we need to do. We need to love them, and then we can help them. So, but again, you can't do that unless you take care of yourselves first. And so, it's super important to do that. And today, yes, there'll be times to engage. And so I do hope that you'll take some time to kind of stand up and move about, because I'm, all about moving around. I cannot sit down and have the kids sit there forever. And so in just a minute, I may just have you guys stand up and stretch and do a little mental break as well. And so, a lot of times you're told to think outside the box. Why should there be even a box? Why constrain yourself? Think like there's no box, right? Have an open mind, and continue to learn on a daily basis, right? Because I feel like you can learn all the time. And yes, it's going to sound a little morbid, but I tell the kids this: the day that you stop learning is the day you die. Truly, every single day, even we adults, like, I learn something new every day. It is so exciting, right? Like, whether I'm just flipping through, a textbook or a dictionary or something, and I try to look something up. It's so important to learn something new every day, just so that you don't get stale, right? Like, I look at blogs, I look at educational blogs, technology stuff, and see, hey, how can I implement this in my classroom, right? And so you have to do that. And so always keep an open mind. All right, so I'm not going to read this slide to you, but this is a foundation that that ACTFL started in November of 2022, this last conference. And there are 4 priority areas, as you can see. And so if you'd like to get more update, go ahead and connect with them on social media and also sign up for updates. But ultimately, this is a foundation that's going to work for all language teachers. And so I am super excited for this foundation as well. And I'm really hoping that there's going to be a lot of good that's going to come out of it. So I'm so excited about the initiative, truly, truly. So, all right. So like I said, as I promised, I'm going to have you guys go ahead and stand up. And I know, like, recently on language Twitter, right, someone posted about how, oh my God, I hate people who do classroom management stuff. And sorry if I'm offending anybody, if it's someone in here, okay, that posted that comment, but there is a reason why I have you guys do this, I promise. Okay, but again, like, you gotta get people engaged, right? And you have to build proficiency somehow. And so, you know, like, you want to get them to be up and about. And so go ahead and stand up and stretch. This is your opportunity to, you know, stretch, get a little mental break. It is like 9 o'clock, you know, 9:20 West Coast, 8:20 Alaska time. OMG, thank y'all again for being here. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys stretch like this, reach for the screen, and then I'm going to say unes, dua, tres, aculi ad me, and you'll say unes, dua, tres, aculi ad te, and point to me. Okay. All right. So y'all ready? Okay. Unes, dua, tres, aculi ad me.
Unos, dos, tres, aculi ad te.
Awesome. So let's do it one more time. Unos, dua, tres, aculi ad me.
Unos, dos, tres, aculi ad te.
All right, and oh, let's stretch a little bit more. Okay, so thank you for indulging me. Now, how many of you guys know what this icon is?
QR code?
Well, the QR code, but also just the icon that's right here with heart and the brain. Do you know what that means?
Love grows the brain.
Love grows the brain for sure. Absolutely. But again, they need to be emotionally well, right? And so this is one of the images that they have from one of the SEL trainings that I've gone to. So again, as I mentioned before, kids are not okay coming out of a pandemic. And you need to get them to engage somehow. And so I actually started doing this during the pandemic when, you know, when we all started to teach online, and I wanted to check on them because, you know, it's so hard when they're isolated. You know, you remember those days when we are all cooped up. We don't know what's happening in the world, right? And they have to, you know, figure out a way to sign in. Some of them didn't have devices, and some of them are dealing with parents or elderly grandparents who are susceptible to COVID and all these things, you know, they're running out of food. And so I started this where that's how I started my online classes every day. I wanted to check in with them. And so it's a great way to get them to interact with them. And so if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and do that for me as well, so I can kind of gauge and see how you're doing today. And also just kind of share with me some of the things that you hope to learn from this session, and also, you know, some of the things that have gone well for you during this school year. And then this way I can also, you know, send y'all emails later and, you know, share things with you if you need, or for you to get in touch with me as well. So yes, allergies have been bad. Though today it's been okay because it started to rain yesterday, and so that kind of got some of the pollens. But OMG, it's mountain cedar season here in South Texas, and man, you know, if you're in South Texas, if you're in San Antonio, Austin, if you never had allergies before, after a while, it's going to pop up. I promise you. So visiting is great, but living here, you know, like I used to not worry about pollens and whatnot, but I think it's about 5 years ago, so right before COVID, there was a mountain cedar season where it was super bad, and I just started sneezing like crazy. So anyway, but you can kind of see this is another way of engaging the students and get them to self-reflect, right? But also to get them to use proficiency as well. And so I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can kind of see what I see. And can you see that Google form? Go ahead and give me a digital thumbs up sign or the physical thumbs up sign. Awesome. And so again, with this Google form, I can kind of see exactly where you guys are. Let me refresh that really quick and to see. But again, you have the emojis to help them figure out exactly what how it is that they're feeling in the target language, right? And then, you know, and yes, I may be using this for a drawing for later, for prize. So, but again, it's one of these things where, you know, I want them to share with me what it is that they're doing. I want to get to know them and just to kind of check up with them every Friday. So now it's every Friday instead of every day that I check in with them, and it's a built-in routine. And so they come into the classroom, they sit down. That's the first thing they do is their weekly self-reflection. And so my questions change. I pop it into their learning management system, which for us is Schoology. And so I can ask them questions, and then I can check in on them. But the caveat is that we are not trained to be a counselor. Unless you are, great, wonderful. But I personally am not trained to be a counselor. And so if I see something alarming, I do check with the kids and say, hey, I feel like this is something that I need to alert your counselor about. Would it be okay if, right? Because a lot of times they share with you because they trust you. You're the adult that they trust. And so I don't want to break that trust. But at the same time, we're obligated by law, right? We have some legal obligations. And so you do want to walk that balance. But again, don't do these forms and mental health check-ins and self-reflection if you're not going to read it. Like that's a bottom line, because, you know, there could be a cry out for help. And if you're not reading it, then we have an issue. So make sure that you do that. But yes. And so this is, it's going to be amazing, right? And sometimes they share things with you, insight with you, and you're the only one who cares. And it's so good to just get to know them and for them to know that you care. It is so important to do that. And so, and also it's a great time for them to self-reflect, because again, I'm all about getting them to see what they did wrong and that growth mindset, right? And not did wrong, but how can they continue to improve? So let me rephrase that. How can they continue to improve, right? You can never be satisfied and can never be complacent. And so, like let them reflect on things like, okay, how did you feel about your performance this week on an assessment, right? Whether formative or summative or just overall classroom performance. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? How can you improve upon your, performance this week? What are some of the things you did, right? And so things like that. And I think it's important to know. All right. And so let's go back to this. And so I always talk about, think about who's your why, right? That's why we're here. And that's really the kids. And part of my why would be my niece and nephew, who are 6.5 and 2.5. And I'm so excited in the San Francisco area that I get to see them from time to time, right? But also my kids, they're my why, right? Again, what a privilege it is that we have to work with kids on a daily basis, right? To love them. That's why we're there, right? And that's so good just to see them. All right, so really quickly, go ahead and if you like to share, great. If not, that's perfectly fine. What does proficiency mean to you? What does proficiency mean to you? Because I know we all have seen this, right? So now, proficiency to me means that you want to encourage them to use the target language, right? And so exactly across contexts and topics, but also just get them to use the target language, right? And to help them to continue to grow. And yes, I know there's this common misconception out there that Latin's a dead language. No one speaks it, right? And that's how I learned it. Didn't, my teacher didn't make us speak a whole lot of Latin. It's all about memorizing charts and translate and stuff. But things have changed a lot, and you can always use spoken languages, right? A way to get them to talk and increase that proficiency level, and so they can gain an understanding without having them to memorize charts and grammar and just translate all the time. And there's so many ways to demonstrate proficiency too. And just now, right, like with our activity. So again, unos, dos, tres, acuiat me. Okay, and so if I started just correcting everybody, no, you didn't say that right. You said uno and not unas. Like, how do you think the kids are going to feel when they just start being corrected from the beginning? They are not going to respond well. Again, we're there to love them first, right? And once they feel loved and cared for, they will respond to you. That's the secondary goal, right? Like then we can work on proficiency, but you don't want to correct them from the get-go and make them feel inferior. You got to lift them up all the time. They need to be the center of your universe. They need to feel cared for and loved all the time. Then they will do anything for you, truly. And so one of the things that I use a lot is, all these technology tools that we were able to gain, right? And that's your superpower coming out of the pandemic, right? As we continue to deal with the pandemic, but these are some of the things that, some of the superpowers that you gained. And so, and if we were live, this is where I'm gonna, like put you in 4 corners and say, go to this corner. If you have seen 3 of these, go to that corner. If you have, seen or heard about 5 or 6 of these, and so on and so forth. And so the 4 corners is a great way to kind of group your students, right? And you can put them in the corners and get them to start talking about things. And so that's another classroom strategy that you can use. It's called 4 corners, where you can just put them in different corners and have them talk amongst themselves in the target language, or give them a topic of conversation, right? So like discuss amongst yourselves what are some of these activities that you have used with your students. And so just kind of out of curiosity for me, how many of you guys have heard at least half of these things or have implemented and used half of these things? Yes, so very cool, very cool. And so I'm not going to bore you with all these things, but there are certain tools that I have come to use and rely on a whole lot. And so, for example, Plickers, it's a great way to kind of visually assess whether or not they understand the concept. And so on the presentations, I have embedded videos. And this is, as you can tell, this is definitely BC, before Corona, like years BC, right? Yes. And they don't have to have tech. You're absolutely right.
Couple people, I have 3.
And if you don't know Plickers, it's a mobile device where they have these cards A, B, C, and D.
So that, guys, how many Camille were there?
And I can visually see if they have the right answer, because then it shows up on my device as green. If not, it's red. And so I can just say, okay, some of you guys might want to look at your cards if you're holding it up correctly to the right letter, right? Instead of, oh, so-and-so is wrong, you might want to, but just say something like that. And this is something you can transfer very easily. You don't have to have Plickers. Just cut yourself, a little square, right? And just write A, B, C, and D on there, and then just have them flip things, like raise things up, right? So you don't have to have Plickers, but it's something that you can do really quickly and assess their understanding and their proficiency very easily, right? Okay, and another variation of something like this is you can give them images, pictures, like a whole stack of them, right? Or put them in 4 corners, right? And say something in your target language, and then have them turn and flip, And so again, visual representation is important, and different way of assessing proficiency and helping them grow. And so again, like I said, I love illustration. It's a way for them to put themselves in comic strips and showing us that they understand what it is that they are working on. And so when we started using technology about 2013, there was this app on Apple called Strip Designer. At the time it's free, now they charge. And so, we want to make sure that we're mindful and cognizant of equity issues, right? And so if you are able to provide this technology tool for the students, it's great. Otherwise, you are more familiar with your situation, with your own students. And so just be mindful of that, right? But I'll show you a tool that you can use as well that's not Strip Designer, where you can still do the comic strip. And so for this, basically, they're reading the story. So in Latin, it's a lot of reading. So they're reading a story, and they have to illustrate the story and show me they understood what it is that they're doing. And again, they want to see themselves in all that we're doing. They want to be able to know that we care about them, right? And so this is a great way for them to insert themselves and then have fun, because I know about your students, but a lot of my students know more about technology on their little pinkies than I do in all the PDs I've been to, right? Like truly, they're now that chat GPT has come out, all these AI stuff have come out, but I'm betting money a lot of them have been using that longer than we're aware of, even though it just came out, right? Like truly, they're amazing with technology. Their kids are so awesome. They really are. And so we have to meet them where they are, right? And so work with what we got. And so this is, again, you can kind of see they're showing me that they understand and they are having fun. They show themselves in there. And so, yeah, exactly. You got to use ChatGPT to your advantage, right? So that's so cool. Absolutely. And, eventually we have to come up with tasks, right, that will continue to help them build proficiency where, they can't just Google Translate or use ChatGPT, right? We have to change the way we're thinking. That's the growth mindset for us as well, not just for the students, not just for the kids, but for us as well. Yes, AI assignment. And so these are some more examples of Strip Designer. But now that, we can use Storyboard that, right? Because if you don't want to pay for it, Storyboard that actually has the ability, it's free for a few assignments to begin with. And the downside is that if they want to insert themselves, they have to take a picture, upload it to the drive, and then they have to upload it to this, but they can find images that they can insert. And so here this is an example from my Latin 3 class where they have to write a story and then they have to illustrate it. So again, I'm looking at the picture to see if it truly reflects what it is that they're doing. I grade this with a rubric so that it's not like a grammar error is going to detract from the whole thing. Again, you want to encourage them always. You don't want to discourage them, right? And so there are other ways to show proficiency as well. And so I'm all about doing movie trailers, right? So with Apple products, with an iPad or any other devices. Now, I mean, again, they know more about technology than we do. Just tell them this is what you want. They'll figure out a way. You don't have to limit them to the tools, right? That you want them to use. Truly. And so I'll just show a quick example. And so again, it's super fun for the kids to do. And then this is one that my AP kids did after reading their required reading lines. And yes, I just wanted to show it because of the puppy. So just for context, part of the AP curriculum is reading Julius Caesar's De Bella Gallico, and there's required reading in Latin as well as required reading in English. And so they do the required reading in English outside of class. And so this is what I did to assess them, right? Whether or not they did the reading is, okay, you got to produce a movie trailer that chronicles details of everything you have read in the required English reading or the required Latin reading, pick something, and then tell us, about it. And so you can tell there's human sacrifices involved. Did they read that part? Yeah. So they show me that, right? They talk about druids, strange gods, right? Priests, and all these things. And so it's a great way for them to show us proficiency that's not just translating, right? Like, do you want them to translate and try to, do these things all the time? No, you want to vary things up, right? Okay, and so hopefully you guys have all downloaded Goose Chase, but let me just show you what my classroom looks like. And yes, this is the hallway that I'm in. I always warn my neighbors, and of course this is BC, before Corona. And so during the activity, they're in the groupings, they're doing different tasks. And so, and things have changed a whole lot, right? Where San Antonio is about 15 minutes away from Uvalde. And so this year we're having to teach with our doors closed at all times and locked all times. So I don't know if you're in the same situation, but that's my reality. And so I've had to, recheck with my administrators and ask them. So things like dictatio currens, running dictation, or Goose Chase, just let them know, hey, I'm going to have kids roam the hallway for these activities. Is it okay? And they're fine, right? But you just have to be very vigilant. So your own reality, your own administration. So just check with them. But hopefully you have downloaded the app. And so if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and launch the app and type in the code to join the game. And again, this is not something you can do on a Chromebook. It is only available on your device. So whether you have an Android or an Apple device, it's in the App Store that's available. And you don't have to subscribe. You don't have to pay for it. You can just join the game. Now, for me, it's about like $85 for the year to get the Goose Chase EDU Educator Plus account. If you sign up with Goose Chase EDU, the basic educator account is free. Okay, and I would do that because I do use this a whole lot, and that's why I started paying for it. But if you go into the free educators account, you can run a game with 5 teams. And so if you have mobile devices like iPads on your campus, you just need to have like 5 of them, and then you can just group them and create the groups ahead of time. So, but yes, let me see how many of you guys have connected already. Let's see. And if you have connected, you can join the experience and go ahead and start playing if you like. But let me shift that over. And I'll put the code back up in just a minute so you can see it. But basically, okay, so no activity just yet, but yes, we have a few people who have signed in, which is excellent. And so we'll see how you guys will do. And this activity actually will run for I have it set so that it's running for 7 days. So if you want to have more time to kind of look at it, that's fine. But basically, these are the missions. And so you can set up your missions, you can set up the points the way you want to. It doesn't have to be just a photo mission. It could be a video mission. It could be something that they have to type. And again, I'll kind of show you some of the examples of Goose Chase, but this is something that you can do that can help them build proficiency, but also change up the routine and get them up and about and collaborate. I actually use Goose Chase as my first day activity, as my icebreaker. And so they go around the campus, especially the freshmen, and they have to like take pictures with the principal. They have to take selfies with the principal. They have to take pictures of certain items in the school. And so, like that first day, right? A lot of us, are required to go over some of these rules and regulations and whatnot, right? Especially that very first class. I don't know your reality, but I know for my first class, they have to take an actual count, and sometimes it's like almost 2 hours because they sit there and they have to like fill out all these forms, and we have to make sure we turn in an accurate count. And so, yeah, it's crazy. And so I'm going to actually put the code to join the Goose Chase into the chat as well, so that way you have it. So there you go. So if you go to Goose Chase, you can join this experience. But anyway, so it's a great way to get them up and about because, again, I like them to move. So, all right. And y'all have been sitting down for a while, so go ahead and stand up while you guys are doing the Goose Chase, right? And stand up and stand and do a little mental break, right? It's so important. So, unos, dos, tres, acliat me. Yeah, and stretch, reach for the screen. Yeah, stretch like this. Deep breath. So, and again, as the kids are continuing to deal with the trauma that they have experienced during this pandemic, a lot of the issues are more exacerbated, and it's always good to, before people always kind of gauge the activity, and once they have that glazed look, glazed over look on their faces, then we change activities, right? And now it's even more important to be cognizant of that. So I try to do something different every 10-15 minutes just so that they are engaged. But let's see how you guys are doing on some of these. Oh, look at that. Oh, somebody already have 2 reading comprehension things. Let's see, can y'all see that? All right, so I'm going to put some of the examples.
Pollito Tito.
Excellent. First one in, so I'm going to give you plus 50 for being the first person to submit, because all the missions are worth the same amount of points, and so if they all submit, right, you won't be able to kind of rank them a little bit later, but you can do this live, right, or you can do this afterwards. It's a lot of fun. And let's see.
Se llama Pollito Tito.
Okay, so excellent. So I'm just gonna say plus 30 points for being the second submission, right? So you can kind of get some ranking, right? But good job. But you can also do something like, and not picking on anyone, okay, but since you're the person, you can also say something like, minus 104 just because. No, I'm teasing. But like if they didn't do something well, you can say like, perhaps you should think about this, and then you can actually give them negative points. But I'm not going to do that. So I'll go ahead and delete that. I'll be nice. But yes, you can actually subtract points as well. But it's a great way to kind of see, right, visually, and you can download these things later to if you really want to give them grades. But it's a great way to kind of help them engage and build proficiency.
Tenemos que decírselo al presidente de los Estados Unidos.
Woo!
Tenemos que decírselo al presidente de los Estados
All right,
Unidos.
so I'm going to give you like
Tenemos que
100
decírselo al
points for
presidente
like
de los Estados Unidos. Tenemos que
super
decírselo al
excitement.
presidente de los Estados Unidos.
Love
Tenemos
it.
que
Love
decírselo al
it.
presidente de los Estados
Like the enthusiasm, right? Love it. And so, like they have fun, they walk around the room, they do all these things, right? And so, yeah. But are y'all having fun doing this? Imagine what the kids can do, right? Imagine all these things that they can do, like walking around the room and school, whatever, right? You can set up stations, you can set up activities. It's a great way to demonstrate for them to show you their proficiency level in a completely different way. So give it a shot. But again, I'll give you opportunities to explore more if you like. But again, it runs for the next 7 days. And so some of the different types of activities for Latin, right? You can ask them to find grammar inventory. And so they had to underline this specific grammatical structure. They have to assess, they can have to show me comprehension, right? So they have to talk about this character and give details. And so
Okay. She's the wife of Barbillas. She's a peaceful and calm lady, and she's satisfied staying home.
right, so they showed me they understood what they read in Latin. Yay. And this is the Latin 1 kid, right? And talk about like providing 3 details. You always have to support your argument, right? So you're building that critical thinking skills on top of proficiency. So, and here's one where I have to
Auditis precibus meis, with my prayers having been heard.
And so they did the target language. They're showing me they understood the Latin, right? And what a great way to use that actively. And then you can ask them to infer information. Like you can see.
Lydius is going to Paula's house to listen in on what she's saying. He's standing emotionless in the trees because he's trying to make sure Paula is unaware of his presence so he can eavesdrop.
So, and again, you can kind of see I was in the background, kind of assessing, right, live. You can do that, or you can just, monitor that. Right now, I probably would monitor the students more and just assess them later, just because I want them to be safe, right? If something were to happen, I want to be able to go, y'all need to come back into my room right now, right? And you know, that's just so unfortunate, but that's just the reality of things right now. Although, you know, the kids always joke about how, you know, they feel like my class would be the best place to be because I actually have a set of Roman armor and shield, and I can just use that to protect them. And I do. I actually, like, every time we have a drill, like, I just put the armor by the door and then the shield by the door, just in case, right? And so yeah. So yeah. So anyway, it's yeah. As I'm looking at some of the chat, just so that I'm not ignoring anybody. So, but anyway, and so, you know, a lot of these new superpowers that we gained over having to teach in pandemic, like you can use them. And so if you join the presentation, you can click on some of these links and you can kind of practice with some of the activities that I've shared with you. And also, I have these breakout rooms. And so the Latin one I actually created, the other ones I have found. And so if you are interested in how to use digital breakout rooms, feel free to contact me. I know I'm running out of time. I don't want to, you know, go over time because I do want to make sure that you still are able to enjoy your Saturday morning. I'm just so appreciative of all of you guys being here and, you know, just having the privilege of your time. But you can certainly practice with these if you like. But, you know, one of the things that with digital breakout room is the kids, they really get into it and they get frustrated when they're not able to solve a puzzle. But again, it really helps them build that grit, right? Tell them not to give up, try, like, give it a shot. And so I have two here that are Spanish versions. And they're all different, but these are things that you can do with them. And again, to break up the routine, you can also use a Google form if you don't, if you're not familiar with digital breakout edu. But like I said, if you have any questions, because I know one of the most frustrating things about these professional development sessions is that you're shown all these things and you're not given time to try to build your own, right? Like it's always like, I wish I had time to build it, and I wish I have time to, you know, create my own things. And so please feel free to email me, contact me, so that if you have any questions. And so there's one for ASL. And then I have some activities, examples of some classroom activities where I have videos of what it's like, so you can just click on these links, right, to see what I do with my students. But a lot of these are BC, before Corona, but I can still do this during now. And so I'm sure you guys are all familiar with running dictation. And so that's a way to, you know, have kids use the target language. So yeah. But in any case, if you have questions, feel free. And this is, again, another activity, but I think we're running out of time. And it's really hard to do this through Zoom as opposed to in person. But it's basically a, you know, a powered up version of rock, paper, scissors, right? So but yeah. And again, I don't have a video of this, but I'll try to record one from one of the sessions. Maybe Sculpt. I'll try to remember to do this. But, you know, again, I'm not going to read this to you, but you know your own audience, you know your own students. Think about, you know, what some of these activities and tools can do for your own classroom, and think about how you can incorporate them the way you want to. You don't have to do exactly like I do, right? You know your audience so much better than than I do. But this is what you need to remember when you are using all these things. Please do not feel like you have to use them all. If you can just do one thing from today that you learned today, that you were shown today, that's all I care about, right? Just even if it's just one thing, even just the thought of the why, I'm happy. And we should always think about who's our why. It's never who's your why, who's our why. And kids are our why. It's a privilege to work with them on a daily basis. We just gotta love them. So, but if you like to add me as a contact on your phone, this is a QR code to a virtual name card. And so if you want to, it's not required, right? It'll hopefully populate my information as a contact on your phone. If you wouldn't mind, love for any feedback that you can provide, just so that I can evaluate myself, right? And to grow as a presenter as well. But thank you for the privilege of your time. I so appreciate y'all being here on a Saturday morning, especially, during your spring break. And again, I will put the tiny URL into the chat as well.
Thank you.
I think that's it. And I'll be remiss also not to mention, hopefully I'll get to see some of you in person in Chicago, November 17th to 19th. And I believe they just opened up the pre-registration and the hotel reservation. So yes, hopefully I'll get to meet some of you guys in person again. But thank you again for the privilege of your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, William. A round of applause. You're getting all the props and kudos in the chat as well. We really thank you for inspiring us on a Saturday. We learned a lot, but I'm feeling really inspired by your words and your examples. So thank you, thank you. We will see you in Chicago, and we'll put a plug in for our PNCFL conference. We'll be back in person next year. It'll be our 75th anniversary. We are the oldest regional, so we're coming back in person. Location soon to be announced. So William, you'll be tired. You'll be done with your exciting toy year, but you'll be part of the toy family forever. I think you know that. And we'd love to have you come to our in-person next year if you can. So thank you.
I'd love to.
Thank you. Thank you. Please enjoy your weekend as well, William. Get a little break before you have to travel out again. So thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Wale te omnes.
Wale me guess there.